Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of Dirty Little Family Secret by Lynn Wood, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. Prologue. The two young girls twined around each other like vines, desperately holding on, tears falling freely, their breaths hampered by sobs. Between those sobs, dramatic promises were exchanged. The kind of promises young children traded with each other, even though they understood no power of theirs could bring them to fulfillment. Promise me you'll never forget me, Candace whispered, drawing back and meeting her best friend's blue eyes like the sky. I promise you'll always be my best friend, Jessie whispered back, tears streaming unchecked down her cheeks. I'll come see you, she tacked on. Even though she knew her parents were too busy to worry about promises little girls gave to each other, nor would they feel any obligation to fulfill them. When she saw the sad doubt in her best friend's tearful glance, Jessie promised even more fervently, I'll find a way, somehow. And when we grow up, we'll go to college, like your sister, and we'll be roommates, and you'll be a doctor, and I'll be. Jessie hesitated. She had no idea what she wanted to be when she grew up, but tacked on for her best friend's sake. I'll be whoever I'm supposed to be. Come here, Jessie, and let your friend be on her way to her new home. A woman's no-nonsense voice intruded on the girl's farewell. Hearing it, Jessie paused for a moment to turn in her mother's direction, saw the steel within the gaze holding her own, and then turned back and drew her friend in for one final, desperate hug. We'll find a way. Then, when we're older, we'll move to California and live together and be best friends always. They can't stop us then. Candace nodded and held on just as tight to Jessie. In the end, it was Jessie's mom who drew them apart, separating them forcefully when Jessie refused to let go and dragging her daughter away. Candace's parents watched the girls' prolonged goodbye with tears in their eyes and hurried to comfort their daughter when Jessie's mom separated them. Both fathers lifted their youngest into their arms, blinking back their own tears. No one loved with the passion and innocence of the very young. Jessie's dad mused as he carried his sobbing daughter to the car and tucked her, unconsolable, into the back seat of the Volvo SUV. Jessie pressed her face and hands against the window at her side, holding Candace's agonized gaze from where was held in her father's arms on the front porch of the home Jessie knew as well as her own. I'll find a way, Jessie whispered fiercely to herself as her father started the car and backed out of the stone driveway where lush landscaping framed the entrance to the house. As if she could hear her desperate promise, Candace nodded in her father's arms and waved with the same desperate determination until Jessie's car was out of sight. Prologue. Charlie Madison shoved her ungloved hands into her coat pockets as she braced against the howling wind and light, slushy drizzle on her way home from her shift at the coffee shop to the tiny apartment in the city she shared with 5 roommates. Good tips this morning, she mused, so she was glad she agreed to cover for her coworker who partied a little too heartily the previous evening and wasn't up for perky barista duty and smiling politely in the faces of the often snide, always impatient New Yorkers who stopped by the coffee shop on their way to work. Charlie brushed aside the stinging ice drops on her cheeks and considered summoning a rideshare, but quickly dismissed the idea as an unnecessary extravagance. Charlie grew up on the Massachusetts coast, so the miserable winter drizzle wasn't enough to have her reaching for her phone to call for a ride. Her walk home, or what passed for home for another year anyway, was less than a mile. Her hard-earned tips would fund her own coffee habit for a week or so. If she was faced with a choice between an uncomfortable walk home, but one accompanied by the promise of a coffee future, or a short ride share without one, the weather would have to be a lot worse than it was for her to choose the latter. Hey, Charlie, an unfamiliar voice hailed her. Surprised at the interruption of her silent musings, Charlie tried to place the voice and summon a name to attach to it before she turned in its direction and made eye contact with its owner. Failing her intent, she turned in the direction of the voice with a polite barista smile to greet her unexpected company. There was no one there. She swung quickly in all directions, taking in the fact that no one on the moderately busy sidewalk was paying the least bit of attention to her, and reluctantly drew the obvious conclusion. Shaking her head in disgust, she hunched her shoulders against the latest icy gust of wind sweeping up the tunnel created by the tall buildings on either side of the street and turned back in the direction of her apartment. She resumed her walk at a brisk pace, accompanied by a barely audible shit escaping her breath. Come on, don't be like that, the same, now amused voice pleaded. Charlie didn't bother turning her head this time. Go away, she commanded silently. No point in attracting unwanted attention from people on the street by holding a conversation with herself out loud. Hmm, no problem on my end. Your signal is loud and clear, her companion assured her. What do you want? Charlie asked with an audible, elongated sigh. A favor. I'm Mike, by the way. Apparently, you already know my name, Charlie responded, unable to completely disguise her less than welcoming reaction to the introduction, and then forced herself to add, What's the favor? You seem pretty clued in, Mike commented, as if the observation was a compliment. How the hell do I get out of here? I'm not sure I understand your question, Charlie demurred. I missed my ride. I wasn't ready to move on when the opportunity arose, and now I'm stuck here, her companion confided. How long ago was that? Doesn't really matter. Time is for the living, not the dead. The dead have nothing but time. How'd you miss your ride? Charlie was curious enough to ask, despite her lifelong practice of steering clear of the mics of this world and the next. She heard his sigh in her head before he reluctantly admitted, Well, I didn't exactly miss it. I told the guide, I believe they're called, who came to get me, to get the hell away from me. I wasn't going anywhere. I guess you told him, Charlie replied, amused. Yeah, ha ha. Obviously, I didn't think things through. Now you're stuck here, Charlie confirmed. She never knew a soul could be stuck here. She knew one could delay their departure, but she always assumed once a soul was ready to move on, the vehicle to do so, whatever that was, would automatically appear. Not that I gave it much thought at the time, but I'm thinking a lot of us made the same erroneous assumption. So yeah, I appear to be stuck here, and no one seems to know the way out, Mike explained. Well, that's not entirely true. There's always someone around looking for lost souls, but they're not like the one who came for me when I passed through to this side of things. I've learned my lesson. The ones hanging around are like I was, looking for a way out of the whole death deal. Or worse, there's the ones who seem to be looking for more than a little company in their own misery. They scare the shit out of me. I try to stay out of their way. Besides, I've got a steep enough climb ahead of me. I'm not looking to add to it. I'm ready to face the consequences of my less than stellar performance in my former life and get back on track with the whole eternity deal. So I'd appreciate any tips you can offer to steer me in the right direction. Up, not down. Charlie considered Dead Mike's dilemma and then offered him a few suggestions she picked up from the moms and aunts over the years and wished him luck on his way. When she was once more alone in her own head, she accepted it was time she did something tangible about the family secret. Despite her best efforts to distance herself, there was more and more Mikes appearing unannounced and unwanted in her life lately. Yes, she was definitely going to have to do something about the family inheritance, as her mom's side of the family laughingly called it, and as soon as she figured out the answers to other more pressing mysteries, like what she was going to do with the rest of her life, she'd get right on it.